Alright, we've talked plenty about both the trade market and the free agent market, who the Lakers should go after, who they might go after, how much money they have to work with, how many assets they have to work with, and a whole lot more to go with it. But how about a combination of both of them? Not only making a signing, or not only making a trade, but both of them at the same time, aka making a sign and trade. Maybe not the most common method, but a pretty good method to upgrade your team with, especially if you don't have much money to work with, or many trade assets to upgrade your team with, kind of exactly like the Lakers' current situation. So with that in mind here, how could the Lakers benefit from a sign and trade, and who could they target with a sign and trade? We'll talk about that and try to break it all down here. But before we get too far into it, don't forget to check out G2A.com.
G2A.com, tons of gaming deals and killer prices, instant delivery, best gate to play, your gate to adventure.
So be sure to check them out in the video description down below. But now getting back to our topic, and like I said, maybe not the most common method, but a pretty good method to upgrade your team with is by using a sign and trade, much like the Golden State Warriors shown last summer. I mean, following them losing Klay Thompson, they wasted no time making sign and trades to replace him, first of which being with Buddy Hield, who is currently making a big impact on their team, and during the postseason, they got him through a sign and trade, and look what he's doing for their team now. Then following that up by signing both Kyle Anderson and DeAnthony Melton to a sign and trade as well, or getting them via a sign and trade, both of which are not currently on their team, but actually were a big part of them getting Jimmy Butler. Kyle Anderson being part of the Jimmy Butler trade, and then DeAnthony Melton getting them Dennis Schroeder, who also was a part of the Jimmy Butler trade later on. So between all of that, that gave them two gigantic parts to their current team and helped them to get where they currently are right now, all of which came through sign and trades. So with that in mind here, could the Lakers replicate that, or maybe to a somewhat lesser extent, upgrading their team via sign and trade and making one, two, or maybe even multiple of them this summer? Well, probably not that many, but I think they might be able to take advantage of one at least if they go about it the right way. So we'll talk about three of them they might be able to make, and possibly my three favorite sign and trade targets. However, you gotta realize that there are certain rules that come with making a sign and trade, one of which being the contract or contract duration you have to sign the player to. If you're making a sign and trade, at the bare minimum you have to offer that player a 3-year contract. It can be up to a 4-year contract, but cannot be below a 3-year contract. And yes, it can be for any amount during that contract duration, up to a maximum contract salary or as low as a minimum level salary, but it has to be for a 3 or 4-year contract. So you probably don't want to offer it to a relatively older player, somebody that's 32 plus years old, making them under contract until they're 35 years or older. Probably don't want to go that route. So we gotta keep that in mind here. And then for another rule that comes with it, any team that makes a sign and trade and gets the player through the sign and trade, not the team that trades away the player, but the team that gets the player via the sign and trade, they automatically become hard capped at the first apron, with the first apron being set at roughly $195.9 million next season, and the Lakers are currently dangerously close to that amount, with their current payroll projected at roughly $191 million if they keep everyone and LeBron does not take a pay cut. So that might be pushing it for them. If they would make a sign and trade, then they would have to offload salary at the same time, or simply dump a player through a different trade and then be able to make a sign and trade if they're signing that player to a relatively large contract. So also got to keep that in mind here too. But with all of that being said, it definitely is still a possibility for them and might be a good option for the right free agent, as they probably don't have enough money to offer them or get them through free agency, especially if we're talking about a guy like Myles Turner, our first sign and trade target. And yes, definitely a hot target and hot topic among many Laker fans, not only this summer, but probably dating back for 2 or 3 years now at this point, all the way back to the trade they maybe tried to make for him or maybe did not try to make for him, all rumors and speculation, but definitely were linked to Myles Turner at one time. And well, could this finally be the summer or offseason they get him? Not entirely sure and don't bet on it, but it could be a possibility through a sign and trade if the Pacers don't offer him the contract or kind of outlook that he wants with their team, therefore requiring them to let him go, and they probably don't want to let him go for absolutely nothing, which would lead to them making a sign and trade with them. And if they would go that route, and if the Lakers would try to get him via sign and trade, it probably would not take that much, as typically through a sign and trade, it's not relative to the player's value through a regular trade. I mean, for Myles Turner, for example, it would probably take about 2 first-round draft picks to get him, with a young prospect to go with it. but then through a sign and trade, it would maybe take one first-round draft pick, maybe lightly or unprotected, then simply matching salary to go with it to make the trade work financially. And yes, it might not seem fair, but you gotta remember here that the team that's trading him away or any player through a sign and trade is simply not trying to lose them for absolutely nothing. Again, definitely not saying this sign and trade is incredibly likely to happen or any sign and trade for that fact, but I wouldn't say it's out of the realm of possibility. If the Pacers don't want to pay him or give him the role that he wants in their team going forward, then they might have to resort to a sign and trade with Myles Turner, which a team like the Lakers would like to take advantage of and happily would take advantage of too. Now, like I said though, wouldn't be easy on their part. Not only do they have to offer him the contract that he wants, which in my opinion would probably be a 3-year contract worth 70 to 80 million, or then a 4-year contract up to 90 to 100 million, which is quite a bit but might be worth it for him. But then they would have to match the salary of him through a trade, get rid of guys like Gabe Vincent and Maxi Kleber to make the money work, and keep them under the first apron, probably coupled with a slight LeBron pay cut, or working out a new contract with Dorian Finney-Smith to give him less money for next season. But if they can make all that work, then they might be able to get a guy like Myles Turner or some other target via sign and trade. And for Turner in particular, I think we all know about him at this point, is a very good rim protector, is a very good defensive big man, something the Lakers are trying to get and have been trying to get a guy like him for some time now. Then couple that with a very good floor spacing option, one of the best 3-point shooting big men and true fives in the entire league, probably one of, if not the best combination between both of them in the entire NBA, only falling behind guys like Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren in my opinion, but that's what Turner can do for your team. So if you can get him and through a sign and trade for that price, then definitely think about doing it. Though unfortunately, I don't find it very likely, and if they can't get Myles Turner, then they should move on to a different target, and one that probably would be a good option for them as well. This happening to be Santi Aldama. Again, I don't find any sign and trade likely to happen, but this would also be a pretty good fit for their team in my opinion. Currently with Memphis, and that's a team that does have some cap space, but maybe not enough to offer what Santi Aldama wants and offer him the long-term role that he wants with their team as well. Kind of being behind both Jaren Jackson and potentially Zach Edey in the starting lineup, so maybe he might want to go to a different team for a bigger role and potentially more money as well. If the Lakers would offer him a contract worth roughly $85 million over 4 years, roughly $18 to $24 million per season, and if you're not familiar with him, you might think that's an overpay, but he is a very talented player. Getting better year by year, both from an offensive and defensive standpoint, this season up to 12.5 points per game in only 25 minutes per game, shooting about 37% from 3 on 5 attempts per game, and that's very high volume for a 6'11 player, averaging roughly 6.5 rebounds per game, 3 assists per game, playing pretty solid defense with it, and being able to play at both power forward and center. You're getting a pretty versatile player, and not to mention one that's only 24 years old. So if you can make a sign and trade for Santi Aldama, and not to mention taking him away from a conference opponent, then definitely think about doing it. But for what it would take to make the sign and trade happen, again, it doesn't take that much to make a sign and trade. If the team is going to lose that player, then they don't want to lose them for nothing. But even with that, probably have to offer them either Rui Hachimura to make the money work, or a combination of an expiring contract with Dalton Connect and maybe a first-round draft pick swap. Something like that, and maybe something to think about for Santi Aldama. But then finally, for a cheaper, or I guess more relatively inexpensive and probably more realistic option, we could try to make a sign and trade with Brooklyn for a guy like Sharpe. Definitely wouldn't make as much money compared to either Myles Turner or Santi Aldama. Maybe something like a 4-year $20 to $25 million contract, or a 3-year $15 to $20, up to at most $25 million contract. And for a guy that's only 23 and could be their potential long-term solution at center, or maybe their long-term solution at backup center, that might be worth a sign and trade. After all, we are talking about a player that the Lakers simply don't have at this point. Not only a center, but the kind of attributes he brings to that center, one of which being toughness and a ton of physicality. Sharpe I often call a mini Andre Drummond, and for pretty damn good reason too. Very physical around the rim, absolutely relentless when it comes to getting positioning down low and fighting for rebounds, averaging roughly 14 rebounds per 36-minute average on his young career so far. Absolutely tenacious rebounder and a guy that definitely will work hard for you around the rim. Then on top of that, he is only continuing to get better and is showing different levels of improvement, one of which being trying to develop a 3-point shot. Took a few threes last season and made a few of them, continuing to try and develop that, and that would be a luxury to have at a backup center spot. Or then on top of that, getting better on defense, is somewhat switchable, is light on his feet for how much he weighs and how big he is, and is a decent rim protector, so could get a little bit of everything with Sharpe, and again, might be worth a sign and trade and probably would not be an unrealistic target via a sign and trade. But with all of that being said, what do you guys think? If the Lakers make a sign and trade, and if they would actually go that route and stay under the first apron while doing it, who would be your favorite or most realistic sign and trade option? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one, and if you enjoyed the video, then I would greatly appreciate it if you dropped a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day or night.